Welcome back. The recent shootings in the United States have raised racial tensions in a country built on the blood and sweat of immigrants. Minutes of miles away, U.S. Ambassador James Entwistle is coming to the end of his stay in Nigeria and tells us he's certainly not happy about what's going on back home, but is just as concerned about what's happening in his host country. In his chat with my colleague, Omelogo Nadi.
Well, I think in any country, but especially in democracies like yours and like mine, the relationship between security forces and the population is a crucial relationship. It has to be based on trust and understanding if it's to work effectively. I have tremendous respect for the police. It's a difficult job. I couldn't do it. But it's clear that in my country now, as in many countries, that relationship in some cases between the police and the population is under very close scrutiny. And when you see on television what happened in Minnesota and in New Orleans in some of the previous cases, frankly, it should be under scrutiny, just as those relationships should be very closely monitored in every country. I hope that we will be able in the United States to have the kind of public dialogue between affected populations and police and government to work out a better relationship between the security forces, the police, and the population. I'm always a little skeptical about making judgments based on a short video clip or something like that. It's better to see the entire thing and read a full report about what actually happened and so on. But these are incredibly serious cases. The videos that I saw on television for both in New Orleans, or not in New Orleans, in Louisiana and Minnesota, both were very, very shocking to me. You will have seen that the governor of Minnesota made a public statement saying how shocked he was. So I hope this will lead to a better relationship, but it's clear that we're in a difficult period on these issues in the United States. Mm-hmm.
There's been racial comments coming from Mr. Donald Trump, Africans and Mexicans, and then building bridges instead of building walls instead of bridges. How will that impact on America moving forward?
On the one hand, keep in mind it's one man expressing his opinions. But of course, he's running for president, so it's much more important than just one man. I have found some of the things he said to be shocking, particularly the fact that he wants to be the candidate of the party of Abraham Lincoln. But some of the things he says about certain ethnic groups and so on, I find personally shocking. Obviously, as a U.S. government official, I can't express or endorse one candidate over the other, but I think it's been a very, very difficult period for a lot of Americans as we talk about exactly who we are and who do we want speaking for us around the world. It's a very challenging time. Maybe whoever the U.S. ambassador is in November you can ask him that question again. I'll be watching as a private citizen back in the United States. But it's a tough time.
In 2015, the United States played a major role in Nigeria's presidential elections, especially as regards asking people to steer clear of election violence. Now, are you happy with the outcome of that electoral process, especially the impact it has on the present administration?
Well, let's be clear, the United States government had no opinion on who won the election. We were concerned with the process, that it be open and transparent and nonviolent. And by that benchmark, we were quite pleased with the results. Remember when Secretary of State John Kerry came to Lagos a year and a half ago, January of 2015? I think that visit was tremendously important because he met with President Johnson and with then candidate Buhari. But I think the most important thing he did is, remember, he gave a press conference. And he said that the United States, or he said that people who foment election violence and fraud would not be welcome in the U.S. He said that, and I can tell you that got people's attention. I won't tell you any names, but I can tell you in a few weeks after that, a number of people called me up and said, was the secretary talking about me? And my answer was always, should the secretary have been talking about you? So I think that made a difference. The other thing that I think helped quite a bit, you'll remember that I think it was about 10 days before the election, we released a video from President Obama speaking to the people of Nigeria about the importance of the election and nonviolence and all of that, I think that had a powerful impact as well. But both of those illustrated the depth of our commitment as a friend and partner of this great democracy to the election process here. It was an inspirational time to be here, and I was very impressed. I think one of the fascinating trends on this continent right now is the use of technology in elections. Biometric cards, card readers, I think that made a huge difference. They didn't work perfectly, but they worked well enough to make it much more difficult to stuff ballot boxes and steal elections. And I have to say, I think a real hero of Nigeria was Professor Jada at the helm of INEC. He was calm and cool throughout. He maintained a steady course. I have tremendous respect for what he did here.
Now, one of the major thrusts of this present administration is anti-corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the top of that one is recovery of looted funds.
Yes.
Now, the United States, once again,
Mm-hmm.
has made pledges to help with that, to ensure that as much as possible,
Mm-hmm.
looted funds are recovered.
Yes.
Now, besides the recovery of looted funds, what other ways is the United States going to help with this anti-corruption fight?
Well, it's not what we're going to do, it's what we're already doing. First, on assets in the U.S. Yes, there are extensive assets in the U.S. These transactions are very difficult to unravel. You look at a bank account, figuring out what money came from where, who it belongs to, if multiple people tell you that the money belongs to them. These things take a long time to pick apart. Also, almost all of these issues are in the courts in the U.S. Legal systems take time. But once these cases are resolved, we will move money as quickly as we can. We're asking for a little bit of help from your government, too, because on some of these cases, in order to sort them out in the U.S., we need a little more information on this or that. But we have excellent legal and judicial cooperation with Nigeria. We talk about these issues every day. But beyond that, more importantly, what we're doing is a lot of training things. How do you pick apart and understand complicated global financial transactions? We're helping train on that kind of thing.
Now let's talk about the recent statement by the U.S. that the Boko Haram has no link to ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
What would that mean? Does it mean that they are only just mirroring the activities of this big group?
Well, let me be very clear here. I don't know who said that. I don't agree with that statement. In my opinion, based on a lot of study and experience and so on, it's my opinion that there are links between Boko Haram and ISIL. We follow those very closely. I can't go into detail in this setting, but I don't know who said that, but in my opinion, they were wrong.
We have the Niger Delta Avengers,
Mm-hmm.
including that from our brothers from Biafra. You know, they are keen on cessation.
Mm-hmm.
They're citing resource control.
Mm-hmm.
How best should Nigeria deal with such a thing?
Well, if I've learned anything in 35 and a half years as a diplomat, it's that talking is always better than fighting. I would like to think that all of these issues, both in the Delta with the Niger Delta Avengers who are attacking the petroleum infrastructure, and with people in Biafra who claim to want to leave, I hope these things can be sorted out through dialogue. The future of Nigeria, it's up to Nigerians. But in my opinion, Nigerians are better off. Nigerians of all ethnic groups, all parts of the country, are better off in than they are out, in my opinion.
What do you make of reports that they have international support, these groups?
I've seen no evidence of that. That's the kind of thing that's easy to say, but difficult to prove. I've seen nothing to suggest that.
Do you see these groups, the Niger Delta Avengers, the Biafra, do you see them as terrorists of any sort?
No, I think they're Nigerians who are expressing their right in a democracy to speak in public and talk about their needs and desires. And as long as it is talk, as long as they are expressing themselves, I think in a democracy that's a very healthy thing.
Still ahead on Diplomatic Channel, the NATO summit ends in Warsaw following 2 days of decisions to strengthen the alliance's deterrence and defense and plans to project stability in the wider neighborhood. Please stay with us.